18.3 Selection. Please don't forget to go back to your objectives after studying to make sure that you covered the objectives of the lesson correctly. So, natural selection. What's natural selection? If we break down the term into the two words, it will be easier to define. Natural means that it's done by nature, no human interference here. And selection means that I have a variety and I'm going to select from this variety. We agreed before that within a species we have variations because of the different alleles of the genes. So, in the process of natural selection, when nature starts selecting, it selects those with the advantageous features, ones with the alleles that help them fit more into the environment. So, let's read the definition. It's a process in which individuals with advantageous features, the ones with the better features, are more likely to survive and reproduce. So, the ones with the better features will survive, and since they will survive longer, they will reach the reproduction age and they are the ones that will reproduce. Therefore, their alleles will be passed to the next generation, while the ones with the less fitting alleles, they will die out easier or earlier, so they will not reach the mating age and they will not pass their alleles to the next generation. Look here, for example, at the beetles. You have the brown beetles and the green beetles. Which ones have the more advantageous exoskeleton color? Actually, the brown ones, because they are camouflaged in the tree, while the green ones are more easily to be spotted and eaten by the bird. So, the ones with the brown exoskeleton will survive for a longer time and they are more likely to mate and give more offspring with the same allele, which is the brown exoskeleton color. Okay, so what are the characteristics or the steps of the natural selection? First, there is always a variation in any species. So, why do we have variations? Because we have different alleles of the genes. Accordingly, those variations affect the adaptive features. Some alleles or some variations or some traits will be more adaptive in the environment while others will not. Overproduction. Overproduction means that a lot of offspring is made by the species or by the population. So many offspring, this will cause that a lot of this offspring will be able to survive. If there is few offspring, there is less chance that the species will survive to the next generation. But when there is overproduction, when there is a lot of these species, a lot of offspring from the species, this gives the species more chance to be naturally selected or to live to the next variation. Competition. Since there is overproduction, these individuals are going to compete or struggle to survive. Struggle of existence or the struggle of survival. They will compete over what? They will compete over the resources, food, water, mates, shelters, all of the resources that are provided by the ecosystem or the environment. So, who will survive then after this competition? Survival for the fittest. The individuals with the best adaptive features, with the best alleles, will survive accordingly. They are the ones that will be able to grow old enough to mate and they will pass their alleles to the next generation. So these are the features or characteristics of the natural selection theory, and also these are the steps of the natural selection theory. Okay, so natural selection may cause a change in the population. What does this mean? So if, for example, here you have a variation of mice, some mice with light colored fur while other mice with dark colored fur. What makes an adaptive feature better than the other? This depends on the environment. Here, the dark colored mice are camouflaged because the environment or the background is dark. so they are not spotted by the hook here. So that's why those with the dark color are able to survive and reproduce, and accordingly their number in the population start increasing, and the number of the white mice in the population will start decreasing. So again, if there is a new allele that was entered by chance, and now this means that we have more in the variation, this will provide better adaptive features that will allow the organisms to survive and reproduce. And this new allele will be passed to the next generation because, again, it gave a better adaptive feature. What if the environment changed? If the environment changed, accordingly, the whole game will change. So now the adaptive features that give a better chance for survival might be not anymore giving the better chance for survival. So the game might be flipped all over again or all around. How does this happen? Let me give you an example. There is something called the selection pressure. What is the selection pressure? It is the thing in the environment that affects the chance of the individuals with different features to survive and reproduce. Okay, let's go back to the example here. Can you see the moth? Some moth had a white color, while the others were black colored. Let's see what happens. So this is what we call a variation. And then let's see when the environment was clean. When the environment was clean, before the factories were a lot in this area, the barks of the trees were white. So the white moth were camouflaged. They could hide when they just stop on the barks of the trees. So at this time, the advantageous feature was having a white color. But after a while, factories increased in the area, and unfortunately, the barks of the trees started changing into a darker color. Accordingly, now the ones that had the advantageous feature became the ones with the dark color. And by time, the advantageous feature now changed, and the ones with the dark color were the ones that are naturally selected. Accordingly, they increased in the population more than the white colored moth. Okay, this is all about natural selection. There is another type of selection called the artificial selection or the selective breeding. What does this mean? This means that humans or us, we choose the particular organisms with the desired characteristics and we breed them together, and we continue this over time to get better food or something that we need more. This will not happen by nature, because nature won't care if the corn had more corn or less, right? But we do care because we need to eat it. So this is done by humans, and this is what we call artificial selection, as you see here in the corn or in crops. Also, this happens in animals because we need animals for food also. So if farmers want to improve a specific thing in their herds, like what? Like milk production, for example, or sometimes meat production, they will do the following. First, they choose only the cows that produce large volume of high quality milk. What about the bull? The bull does not give milk. How will they choose the bull that has the best alleles? They will go back to the parents and see the bull who had a mother that provides high quality milk also. And then they will isolate this cow with this bull away from the herd. Why? To avoid breeding with other members of the herd. And then they will let them breed together and allow the calves to grow and choose the cow with the high quality milk again and again, over and over, and repeat the process over many generations in order to have individuals with the best milk production. Adaptation. So what's adaptation then? We talked about adaptive features. What's adaptation? Adaptation, this is a process resulting from what? From natural selection. Now, if there is a mutation or a change that happened in the alleles, and now we have a new allele in this population, the ones with the best or the most suited alleles will survive over many generations. Like what? One of the very famous examples is antibiotic resistance. Can you see here? These are the different antibiotic pills. When they were placed here in this petri dish full of bacteria, it was very effective. See how much of the bacteria were dead? But after a while, bacteria became adapted to this environment. Now they are not affected by the antibiotic anymore. So that's why the effect decreased. This is what we call adaptation. So again, adaptation is when due to natural selection, some members of the population start being more adapted or more suited to this environment, and then they start passing those alleles from generation to another, and this causes the alleles somehow to change and become more adapted to the environment over the different generations. Okay, let's answer some questions together. The diagram shows an eagle. Eagles have hooked beaks that help them to ingest food. What is this an example of? This is an example of adaptation. Also, what is not a feature of natural selection? It is selection by humans, because we said that natural selection is done by nature without any interference from humans. Part of the process of natural selection is described. Organisms produce many. How will we solve this question? We're going to see one and imagine that these are the choices, and then we will write the choice that we chose here in order to figure it out easily. Organisms produce many space, which results in the competition for space. This means that organisms struggle for space. Now it's gonna be B. Organisms produce many offspring, which results in the competition for resources. This means that organisms struggle for their survival. Which description of an adaptive feature is correct? It is an inherited feature that increases an organism's ability to survive and reproduce. The diagram shows the average head and ear shapes of rabbits from 4 different regions. Which is best adapted to living in the coolest region? Of course, not the ones with the very long ears, because the long ears will not help the rabbit stay warm in winter and in cold areas. So it's gonna be rabbit B. Coffee is an important crop in some countries. Coffee plant can be crossed to produce new varieties. A valuable variety would produce a high yield in a range of different habitats. Explain how 2 varieties of coffee plant would be crossed or bred together to produce an improved variety. We will use the same steps we used with animals. First, select plants with desired characteristics, and then pollen is taken from a variety and placed on the stigma of the other variety. Seeds are collected, and then seeds are grown, and characteristics are watched to select the best characteristic and start all over again. Thank you, and I hope this video helps you study.